Something calm, something that felt like home. And nothing felt more like home than the Mitchell house. Her best friend, Lily Mitchell, had called her the moment she heard Emma was back in town. "Come over tomorrow. Dad's cooking again, and he's actually doing better. I think he'll be happy to see you," Lily had said with her usual excitement. Emma agreed, not thinking twice. But that night, as she unpacked her bags in her childhood bedroom, she kept remembering Daniel Mitchell, the quiet, gentle father who had always been around but never asked for attention. She remembered him as the man who picked them up from high school, always with a calm smile and tired eyes. But she also remembered hearing from Lily last year that her parents had divorced. Emma never asked for details. She respected their privacy. Still, something inside her wondered how he was coping. The next afternoon was rainy and gray. It's the kind of day that made the small town feel softer and quieter. Emma drove through familiar streets and felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her. When she reached the Mitchell house, everything looked almost the same: the porch light, the wooden steps, the big maple tree out front, but there was a strange stillness in the air. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again, listening closely, still silent. Assuming Lily was in the kitchen or playing music upstairs, she often did. Dima pushed the door open gently. "Lily, it's me," she called, stepping inside with her jacket still wet from the rain. No sound. No footsteps. No voice. It felt unusual, but not alarming. Emma took another step inside, wiping droplets from her hair. The house smelled familiar: fresh coffee, soft vanilla candles, and something warm she couldn't quite name. For a moment, it felt like stepping straight into one of her old memories. And then she saw him. Daniel Mitchell stood near the window of the living room, completely unaware that anyone had entered. His back was turned toward her, and he was standing very still, like he had been lost in thought for a long time. He wore a plain white t-shirt and a pair of jeans that looked slightly too loose on him, like he had lost weight recently. His damp hair told her he had just showered, and the soft light from the window settled on him in a way that made him look both strong and heartbreakingly tired. Emma froze. She didn't know why. She wasn't seeing anything inappropriate. Nothing rude or strange. But something about the moment, the quiet of the house, the way he stood there. The sadness in the air hit her so quickly she almost forgot how to breathe. Daniel had always been Lily's dad, the calm parent who drove them to school and made pancakes on Sundays. But the man standing in front of her now didn't look like the father she remembered. He looked like someone carrying too many things alone, someone weighed down by a hurt he didn't show to others. Emma took a small breath, and that tiny sound was enough for him to turn around. His eyes widened, not with anger or embarrassment, but with surprise, real, raw surprise. "Emma," he said softly, straightening a little. "I didn't know anyone was here." His voice was warm but tired, like he hadn't spoken much that day. "I'm so sorry," Emma said quickly, her face flushing with a heat she didn't understand. "Lily told me to come over. I knocked, but no one answered. I didn't mean to startle you." Daniel shook his head gently. No, it's all right. I'm not used to people being around during the day." His eyes softened in a way that made him look even lonelier. Emma nodded, not knowing what to say. She wanted to apologize again, but something in his expression made her stop. He wasn't upset. He wasn't uncomfortable. If anything, he looked almost relieved to see someone. "How have you been?" she asked quietly, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Daniel hesitated. His gaze drifted toward the floor, and his shoulders lowered just a little. "I've been managing," he said, trying to sound casual. "Some days are better than others." Emma felt a pull in her chest, a painful one. Before she could reply, the front door burst open behind her. "Emma." Lily's cheerful voice filled the room. She stepped in, shaking off her umbrella and kicking the door shut. "You beat me here." "Sorry, I had to stop for gas." Immediately, Daniel stepped back, adjusting himself like he didn't want Lily to notice anything unusual. Emma also straightened, forcing a smile. She felt a strange guilt, even though she had done nothing wrong. Lily walked over and hugged Emma tightly. I missed you so much. Come on, we have a ton to catch up on. She grabbed Emma's hand and pulled her toward the kitchen. But before Emma left the living room, she glanced back at Daniel for a brief second. Their eyes met again. He gave her a small smile, gentle, almost grateful, and for reasons Emma couldn't explain. Her heart reacted in a way that startled her. Later that evening, Lily talked nonstop about college tests, local gossip, her plans for summer, the new coffee shop downtown. Emma listened, laughed, shared stories from Seattle. But every time she glanced toward the living room, she caught sight of Daniel quietly moving around the house, fixing things, cleaning dishes, wiping the counter, doing small tasks that kept him busy. He wasn't acting strange. He wasn't doing anything unusual. But the weight around him was so clear that Emma felt it every time she looked his way. At dinner, he said very little. Lily didn't notice. She never had, not fully. But Emma noticed everything. The way he avoided talking about himself. The way he smiled only halfway. The way he kept his hands busy, like stillness made him uncomfortable. After dinner, Lily rushed upstairs to get something she wanted to show Emma. I'll be right back, she said, running off suddenly. Emma and Daniel were alone in the kitchen. The air grew strangely quiet. Daniel cleared his throat. It's good to have you back in town, he said, keeping his voice steady. It's good to see you, Emma replied softly. It's been a long time. He nodded, looking down at the table. I didn't realize it until you walked in today. But I miss having people around. Real conversations. The house gets too quiet these days. Emma felt that pull again, the one she wasn't supposed to feel. You don't deserve to be alone like that, she said gently. Daniel's eyes lifted to hers. For the first time, she saw everything he had been trying to hide. Pain, exhaustion, a loneliness that shouldn't belong to anyone, especially someone as kind as him. Thank you, he whispered, the moment stretched between them warm. Fragile, unspoken. Then Lily came running downstairs again. Completely unaware of the silence she'd interrupted. Okay, ready? Come on, I want to show you something. The air shifted instantly. Emma stood up. Daniel stepped back. Everything returned to normal, but inside, nothing felt normal. That night, back in her room, Emma replayed the moment over and over, seeing him standing in that soft window light, seeing the loneliness in his eyes, seeing the small smile he gave her, seeing the way he looked like someone who hadn't been seen in a long time. She felt guilty for noticing. She felt surprised by her reaction. She felt confused and somehow drawn to him. She kept telling herself the truth. She hadn't seen anything inappropriate. Nothing wrong, nothing she couldn't explain. But she had seen something that changed the way she remembered him. She had seen Daniel Mitchell, not as Lily's father from childhood memories, but as a man shaped by heartbreak, trying to rebuild his life one quiet day at a time. Who looked genuinely grateful that she walked into his world again. And what Emma didn't know was that Daniel lay awake in his own room, thinking about the exact same moment, wondering why her presence made the house feel alive again. Neither of them knew what this meant. Neither of them meant for anything to happen, but both of them felt something shift quietly inside their hearts. And nothing would be the same after that day. Emma Parker tried to convince herself that what she had seen that rainy afternoon was nothing. It was just a momentary, accidental glimpse of her best friend's dad, a man who looked tired, lonely, and human. Nothing inappropriate, nothing that should make her heart race the way it did. She unpacked her thoughts, forced herself to focus on Lily, and tried to laugh at the little things. Yet no matter how hard she tried, the image of Daniel standing there quietly, lost in his own world, refused to leave her mind. For the next few days, Emma spent almost every afternoon at the Mitchell house. Lily's cheerful energy filled the rooms, talking nonstop about her new job at the local cafe, her summer plans, and the latest gossip in town. Emma tried to match her energy, to focus entirely on catching up. But Daniel's quiet presence lingered in the corners of her mind. Every time he passed by, carrying dishes, fixing something in the living room, or simply moving with his calm, measured steps. Emma felt an almost imperceptible pull, a gentle curiosity that surprised her. She hadn't felt this way about anyone like this before, not someone she had known since childhood. Not someone who was meant to be just a friend's parent. Daniel, for his part, noticed her too. He tried to ignore it, to maintain the same polite, distant air he always had with her. But each time their eyes met, there was a hesitation in his movements, a softness in his tone that hadn't been there before. It wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't romantic in a direct way. It was something subtler, a quiet acknowledgement of shared understanding. A fleeting connection between two people who had suddenly noticed the cracks in each other's lives. One evening, Lily had a late shift at the cafe. Emma had arrived earlier, hoping to help with small chores and perhaps spend a calm moment catching up with Daniel in private. She was organizing the living room when Daniel came in carrying 2 steaming mugs of tea. He set one down carefully in front of her, his hands brushing against hers for a fleeting second. The contact was innocent, accidental even, but it sent a small, undeniable thrill through her chest. "I thought you might like some tea," he said quietly, almost as if he was speaking to himself. His eyes met hers, and for a moment there was nothing but the soft hum of the house, the faint sound of rain against the window, and the warmth of the tea between them. "Thank you," Emma said, her hands wrapping around the mug instinctively. The warmth spread through her fingers, and for a second she allowed herself to simply exist in the quiet space beside him. No small talk, no interruptions. Just the two of them sharing an ordinary moment that felt extraordinary. Daniel hesitated, then spoke. "Emma, about the other day." His voice was low, careful, weighted with thought. "I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable." Emma shook her head quickly. "No, you didn't. I just noticed you seemed sad. I didn't expect that." Her voice was soft but steady. His shoulders dropped slightly, a breath escaping him. "It's been a difficult year. The house feels emptier than it should, and, well, sometimes I forget how to carry everything on my own." His words were quiet, almost like a confession, and Emma felt a pang of empathy. A wave of connection she hadn't anticipated. "You shouldn't have to carry it all alone," she whispered, looking down at her tea. Her heart was racing, but not in fear, just in a way that reminded her she was alive, that she was feeling something real and fragile. Daniel's eyes flicked up to hers, and the look he gave her was unreadable at first. There was gratitude, yes, but also a subtle, soft acknowledgement of something more. Not romance, not in a direct way, but the acknowledgement of a shared humanity. Of loneliness met by someone who noticed. "For a moment, when you walked in that day," he admitted, voice lower still, almost hesitant, "it reminded me that I'm still human, that I can still feel something." Emma's breath caught. It wasn't a declaration of love, and it wasn't inappropriate, but it was honest. It was something he had never said to anyone in years, something he hadn't allowed himself to admit. She felt a mixture of emotions, surprise, curiosity, and odd warmth she couldn't name. Her heart wanted to leap, but she kept it restrained, careful. Understanding the boundaries that existed between them. "Daniel," she began, unsure how to respond. She wanted to say so much, but she also wanted to respect the invisible line between them. She wanted to comfort him, but not cross a boundary. She wanted to acknowledge the truth of the moment, but not act on it in a way that could cause harm. So instead, she simply said, "I'm glad you said that. It makes sense. And you deserve to feel seen." He nodded, swallowing hard. His gaze held hers a fraction longer before being broken by a sound outside, the soft crunch of tires in the driveway, followed by Lily's familiar voice calling from the front door. The spell of the quiet room broke immediately. Daniel straightened instinctively, and Emma placed her mug down with a small, trembling smile. They moved past the lingering tension, returning to ordinary roles, ordinary politeness. Lily's cheerful presence pulled them back into normalcy as she bounded in, arms full of shopping bags and stories from her shift. But even as Emma laughed and listened, she felt the memory of that quiet conversation etching itself into her heart. It wasn't about anything improper. It wasn't about romance in the conventional sense. It was about recognition, connection, humanity, something rare and fragile that made her feel alive in a way she hadn't expected. Daniel, too, felt it. That night, in the solitude of his own room, he replayed the scene over and over. He thought about how Emma had noticed him, really seen him in a way that few people ever had. He thought about how natural it had felt to speak openly with her, to admit even the smallest cracks in his armor. He knew it wasn't love, not exactly, but it was something equally powerful, a reminder that connection existed. Even in the midst of loneliness, the following days brought an unspoken tension that neither of them addressed directly. Emma caught herself looking for him more often, noting small gestures, the way he brewed coffee slowly in the morning, the way he straightened a picture frame in the hallway, the subtle sigh when no one was looking. She realized that what had started as curiosity had transformed into concern, into a deep sense of empathy, into something quietly protective. Daniel, too, found himself observing her without consciously intending to. He noticed the way she laughed with Lily, the way she moved through the house, the warmth she brought into every space she entered. He found himself thinking about her moments when she wasn't there, imagining conversations that didn't happen, wondering how someone could be so familiar yet so new at the same time. One evening, Emma stayed later than usual, helping Lily reorganize old photo albums. Daniel joined them briefly, holding a small stack of albums, his presence calm but undeniably significant. Emma watched him move with quiet precision, and for the first time, she allowed herself to fully see him again, not the father figure from her childhood, but the man in front of her now, thoughtful, vulnerable, patient, quietly commanding in his own understated way. They worked in companionable silence, occasionally exchanging glances or a brief word. Every glance carried a subtle weight, an acknowledgement of that first moment that neither could forget. It was as if the entire room held its breath, waiting for something unsaid to surface. Yet neither wanted to push too far. When Lily finally announced she was leaving for a friend's birthday party, the two were left alone again. The quiet space stretched between them, familiar yet charged with the memory of their previous conversation. Daniel cleared his throat. "Emma, you're really easy to talk to," he said softly. "I haven't felt this comfortable in a long time." Emma felt warmth rise in her chest. "I feel the same way," she admitted. It's nice to just be able to talk, to not have to hide everything." There was a pause. Time seemed to slow. The rain tapped gently against the windows. The warmth of the tea mugs lingered on the table. Daniel looked at her, a fleeting shadow of uncertainty in his eyes. I don't want to complicate anything," he said carefully, "but it's hard not to notice how much brighter the house feels when you're here." Emma's throat tightened. She wanted to respond with words that matched the feeling in her chest, but she restrained herself. Instead, she nodded, her eyes meeting his with quiet honesty. I understand," she whispered. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a promise. It was recognition. Acknowledgement of something unspoken yet profound. By the time Lily returned, the moment had passed, leaving only an invisible thread connecting them, a delicate bond formed through empathy, understanding, and shared recognition of each other's loneliness and humanity. That night, as Emma lay in her childhood bedroom, she reflected on everything that had happened. She understood that nothing inappropriate had occurred. Yet the emotional intimacy of the moment had shifted something within her. She felt more aware, more alive, more attuned to the subtleties of human connection. Daniel,